everyone, my name is Kayla, and today I wanted to talk to you about the pros and cons to the ketogenic, otherwise known as the keto diet. If you're not familiar with what this diet is, it basically has you eat very low carbs and higher fats, and this is supposed to help you help your body get into ketosis, which is fat burning. So I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it. We'll start with the pros first. So it can help to reset your metabolism. If your body's used to just running off of carbs, then this is a great option to help your body not run purely off of sugar and starches, but to actually use fat for fuel and just help to reset what your body burns as fuel. Another pro to this diet is it helps to reduce sugar cravings. So I think a lot of Americans in particular tend to get very addicted to carbs and sugar. And a lot of times when we're hungry, those are our go-tos. I mean, breakfast nowadays, cereal, snack bars, frozen drinks, a lot of smoothies are just loaded with sugar. So when we're hungry, a lot of people just tend to turn to sugar. So this diet is great in helping to just cleanse your body, get rid of those sugar cravings, and really teach you to eat a more balanced diet. It can help gut health. I have a little asterisk there because of some of the cons that I'm going to go over with you in a little bit, but due to the high sugar and carb intake that a lot of us eat nowadays, you can have overgrowth of candida or yeast, bacteria, and a lot of people may have parasites too that they don't know about that just love to feed off of these carbs and sugar. So this can help in the sense that it starves off pathogens. So this way it can reset your gut, it can eliminate some of those digestive problems that you have as a side effect of those pathogens living in your gut. Activates burning fat for fuel, in other words, ketosis, like I mentioned a little bit earlier in this video. When your carb intake is very low for an extended period of time, then your body needs some sort of fuel. So it switches from thinking that it needs to solely burn carbs for fuel to actually burning fat for fuel. So your body starts to run off of ketones, which is when you're in that ketosis stage, and that's just when your body is burning fat for its energy, which they say can also help your brain function when you're eating higher fats. And lastly, I think one of the most common reasons why people do this diet is for the weight loss effect. So if you're cutting out carbs and sugar, you're going to be losing a lot of that inflammation that carbs and sugar pack onto you. The sugar in particular is very high inflammatory, so being on the keto diet, you would be eliminating all of that, which would allow your body to actually reduce its inflammation and also lose weight because now you're burning fat for fuel. So some of the cons to this diet would be it doesn't account for food sensitivities. A lot of people are sensitive to dairy. I think the statistics are 1 in 3 people are sensitive or allergic to dairy. So one of the main recommended foods on this diet is dairy. You can read a lot on cheeses, sour cream, cottage cheese, stuff like that to use in this diet because they're very high in fat. But if you're sensitive to these foods, then it's going to cause inflammation, cause GI distress, bloating, and things like that, and can actually have an adverse effect on it. I actually know someone who did the keto diet and she knew she had a problem with dairy. She avoided it for years, but her coach told her that she should incorporate it again and said, oh, well, you didn't do good with dairy because you were eating a lot of carbs, so now that you're doing keto, you should bring the dairy back in. Well, against her better judgment, she listened to her coach and she ended up 10 pounds heavier after 1 month. So that could be incredibly frustrating. Another common sensitivity and allergy is eggs. If you know that you have a problem with eggs or you just don't feel good when you eat them, just avoid those 2 items, and there's plenty of other fat sources that you can still still have as part of the keto diet. Twice as dense in calories as carbs and protein are. So if you're eliminating all the carbs and you're eating tons and tons of fat, you can end up in a huge caloric surplus, which may cause you to gain weight. It can also make you look skinny fat because your muscles are depleted from all the glycogen since you're not eating carbs and you're just eating all this fat. So instead of losing body fat, you could potentially gain a lot more body fat by eating too much fat. So if you are doing this diet, it's really good to keep tracking your macros and your calorie intake just to make sure that you are within your daily needs for your body. It does take at least a couple weeks for your body to adjust. One of the things that I think people don't account for is that you need time to adjust to it. So if you think about it, if you're used to eating a lot of carbs, they're very filling. So you eat a meal, you feel full. Well, on the keto diet, you don't ever really feel full, or at least in the beginning stages, because your body is not eating those carbs. So when you're at a meal, you might be eating protein with tons of vegetables and, let's say, olive oil or avocado or some other form of healthy fat with that meal. Well, that's not going to fill you up the same way that rice and potatoes and pasta and all these other things that you're used to eating will fill you up. So just keep that in mind. There is an adjustment period. It does go away, your body will adjust, but sometimes that can take 2-3 weeks or more for some people for their bodies to adapt to not having so many carbs and that feeling of full. You just kind of get to the point where you feel content, and then you're able to just go on with your day. The hunger just kind of goes away. So it's not like you're getting that super full feeling unless you're eating a ton of veggies until you feel full, but that's probably not the best thing to optimize your digestion. On that subject with vegetables, a lot of people that do keto don't get in enough fiber because you're so focused on just eating protein and fat, protein and fat, protein and fat, and not so much the vegetables. Or if you're tracking, you might not track your vegetables correctly. So I know I've heard in many different places and sources that a lot of people just don't count like green veggies as calories or as carbs because it takes a lot of energy for your body to break those down. Also, fiber, insoluble fiber, counts as a carb technically, but your body doesn't digest it. It's just used to help push things through your digestive system and keep things moving. So if you're counting fiber from vegetables as carbs, you're not going to be really eating enough that you need on this diet, especially since it is so low in carbs. It's not ideal for people with liver or gallbladder issues. This was myself. I actually followed this diet for 6 months after I had my daughter, and I did very well on it initially. I lost all my baby weight in a week, and I just felt good. I was glad to get rid of the sugar cravings. I did have some issues with candida also following pregnancy because of all the antibiotics that I was given since I had to have a C-section and just a long-term use of antibiotics in my childhood and so on. So I had already gone into this with a candida problem. So this did help clear that out, get rid of the sugar cravings so I didn't feel like I was just, craving food all the time. That was one of the best things. But I didn't realize that I still had gallbladder issues from years prior, a very sluggish gallbladder. So if you're eating a lot of fat on this keto diet, which you're supposed to do, and you have a sluggish liver or gallbladder, it can flare up those issues. So I was noticing that I was having a lot of bloating at the end of every day, and I didn't really know why. I didn't attribute it to the diet because I was eating meats, vegetables, and fat. But it turns out that I had sludge in my gallbladder, so I couldn't properly break down my fat, and hence why I was getting bloated. So if you have issues with your gallbladder or liver, You might want to think about this a little bit more before starting it. I also have some tips later on that can help if you do have issues with your liver or gallbladder. And lastly, it can make your training more difficult. So if you're just a typical gym goer, you just go and you work out a few days a week, you'll do okay on the keto diet. But if you are a serious athlete, you're training for a competition, or you're a runner or something that requires a lot of glycogen stores, this diet is probably not going to be optimal for you unless you do the version of the keto diet where it allows you to have carbs on training days. If you're not having carbs on training days, you are not going to have fun with this because you do need that glycogen to help your muscles fire. Another thing that you can do is those refeeds every so often. So once or twice a week or every other week, however often you feel your body needs it, you might want to consider doing refeeds if you are going to do keto, just because your body does need those glycogen stores in order to train and recover properly. Again, I didn't do this when I did keto, and 6 months down the road I ended up with excruciating joint pain because I never did a refeed. I was so gung-ho on, I'm going to get my gut cleared up, I'm going to lose this baby weight, and I just got myself thinking that carbs were the devil, which they're not. So after months of just going through this joint pain, I was like, you know what? I think I might need some carbs. I think this is my body telling me that I need a refeed. So I had a sweet potato, and I felt like $1,000,000 the next day. Joint pain was immediately gone. So that's just something that you need to be aware of, is if you're working out really hard and you're not eating carbs, pay attention to your body. If you're starting to feel really achy in your joints or just really tired and sluggish and you're not recovering, then it's a really good idea to add carbs to your training days. It's not going to screw up the keto diet. Don't overload the carbs, but give yourself something to replenish those glycogen stores that you're depleting when you're training, and it will also help you recover. So here are some tips. Regardless of what diet you decide to follow, you always should modify it to what your body's needs are. No diet is going to know what you need. Just like people with sensitivities. If you know that you have issues with dairy or eggs or a certain food that's written in your diet, and you know it's best to avoid it, then you have to make those modifications so that you can feel good. Because what's the point of going through a diet and going through all these changes and working hard, being so diligent, if you don't feel good? Most people want to do diets because they want to lose weight or they want to improve their health. So that's why you have to look out for yourself. Your body is going to tell you exactly what it needs. It's going to give you feedback. So you just have to pay attention to what your body's trying to tell you. Also, you don't need to follow any particular diet. I think the goal of this is to make positive lifestyle changes. So if you're consistent over time, you're going to see the best results than jumping on and doing a quick diet to lose weight and then going back to where you were before. Like these crash diets that everyone talks about. You lose weight really quickly and then you eat like you did before and you gain it all back, if not more. And you screw up your metabolism in the process. So if you can learn from following a diet and take some tips from it and then apply it to your lifestyle, and that would be the best case scenario, because consistency is going to get you better results than any diet will. So the last point I wanted to make here in my tips is, if you do know that you have liver or gallbladder issues and you still want to do the keto diet, or if you had your gallbladder removed and you want to do the keto diet, not only will you need enzymes to break down your food properly, since you don't have a gallbladder, or if it's sluggish, you might need the aid of that, or some digestive bitters. But I highly, highly recommend doing a liver and or gallbladder flush. Now, with this being said, if you do know that you have issues with your liver or gallbladder, you should be under the care of a doctor. You should have an ultrasound done so that you know what you're dealing with. And if things look okay, there's nothing really obstructing your bile ducts, and your doctor feels like it's okay for you to do a flush, then I would highly recommend doing one. I've done 3 now, and every time after I do a flush, I feel like $1 million. My digestion starts working better. So that's just a good thing to do before and possibly during and definitely after following the keto diet, just to help flush that out so your liver and gallbladder and all those organs that you need to break down fat are functioning optimally. Well, that's it for today. I hope this was informative. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave any comments below. If there's a topic that you wanted me to touch on, just feel free to comment below and I'll be happy to do that. Thanks so much.